Welcome back to Narrative Network. You won't believe how one phone call changed this waitress's entire life. When she discovered a shocking secret about a millionaire's best friend, she risked everything to warn him. And the very next day, a luxurious car showed up at her door. What happened in those 24 hours? And why did this simple act of kindness spark a life-altering chain of events? Stick around to find out, because the twists and turns in this story will leave you speechless. If you enjoy tales of unexpected generosity and life-changing surprises, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Vanessa Summers had a routine. Wake up before dawn, brew a strong cup of coffee, then hurry to Riverdale Diner for her early shift. Surrounded by the clinking of plates and the hum of chatter, she greeted morning regulars with a kind word and a bright smile. She struggled with financial worries, but her dedication never wavered. That Tuesday, she arranged cutlery for the breakfast rush, unaware that fate was about to intertwine her life with a wealthy stranger's. The day started like any other. Hot grills sizzling, coffee machines whirring, and the hope that tomorrow might bring something better. At precisely 8:30, two men entered. One was slender and neatly dressed, his polished shoes clicking against the tiled floor. The other, broader and more relaxed, wore casual sneakers. They chose a booth in Vanessa's section, exchanging quiet words. Despite differences in appearance, she sensed they were truly close friends. She approached with her notepad, offering a friendly greeting. The slender man, gray suit, silver watch, smiled politely. The broad man nodded, scanning the menu. She poured coffee, pen poised for their orders. Little did she know these strangers were about to truly disrupt her carefully balanced world in ways she never imagined. Vanessa took their orders: pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon for the taller man, and an egg white omelet with wheat toast for the suited one. As she scribbled, she overheard bits of conversation. Something about a looming business deal, a risky investment, and concerns about a betrayal. The suited man, apparently named Jonathan, frowned as he spoke. The broader man, Anthony, tried to lighten the mood with jokes. Curiosity flared in Vanessa, but she stayed professional. A waitress must remain ever discreet. Still, an uneasy feeling took root in her mind when she noticed Jonathan's furrowed brow and Anthony's forced, lopsided smile. Soon plates arrived piping hot, and Vanessa carefully served the men. Jonathan picked at his omelet, glancing at his phone repeatedly. Anthony devoured the pancakes, but fell silent. Vanessa noticed tension building between them. She overheard Anthony say, "I can't keep lying to you," in a tight whisper. Jonathan's eyes hardened, and he said nothing, merely tapping the table with restless fingers. Although it wasn't her place to interfere, Vanessa couldn't ignore the growing unease. She offered a warm smile and asked if they needed anything else. Jonathan simply shook his head, while Anthony forced a half-hearted grin of thanks. After they ate, Jonathan paid in crisp bills, leaving a generous tip. Vanessa thanked him, though she sensed this man was used to extravagant gestures. He wore an air of quiet authority, as if the world bent to his decisions. Anthony pulled him aside, speaking in hushed tones. Vanessa overheard a name, Clive Winston, and something about a financial threat. The moment passed quickly. Jonathan exited with a curt nod, while Anthony trailed behind. They disappeared into a sleek black Mercedes parked out front. Vanessa wondered if she'd ever see them again, but destiny had other plans awaiting just around the corner. 2 days later, as lunchtime wound down, the diner's bell chimed. Anthony entered alone, looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and he slumped into the same booth. Vanessa approached gently, remembering the tension from his previous visit. He ordered black coffee and no food. Concern flickered in her eyes, but she respected boundaries. When she delivered the steaming mug, Anthony murmured thanks, then sank deeper into thought. Finally, He mumbled something about ruined chances and betrayal being inevitable. Vanessa offered a sympathetic smile. She knew heartbreak and desperation, but this man's sorrow seemed more complicated, entwined with bigger stakes. Before he left, Anthony pressed a hurried question. "You haven't seen Jonathan, have you?" Confusion sparked in Vanessa. "Not since the other morning," she replied softly. Anthony cursed under his breath and stumbled out, leaving a small tip. Alarmed by his distress, Vanessa felt worry stir for both men. Memories of their conversation about shady deals and betrayals played in her mind. Late that night, after closing, she found herself browsing news articles for any mention of Jonathan or Clive Winston. She came up empty-handed, but couldn't shake the sense that something big, even dangerous, was unfolding behind the scenes. The following morning, a sleek limousine parked outside Riverdale Diner moments before dawn. Vanessa, stepping off the bus, froze. She recognized Jonathan's broad-shouldered driver from the first day. Jonathan himself emerged, phone pressed to his ear, brow furrowed. He nodded curtly at Vanessa before returning to his call. Moments later, he ended the conversation and approached her. "Have you seen Anthony?" he asked, tone urgent. Surprised, she shook her head. "Not since yesterday?" His expression darkened. He muttered about sabotage, Clive Winston, and ongoing threats. Vanessa sensed fear beneath his polished veneer, making her realize he wasn't always in control. Jonathan slid a business card across the diner's counter a half hour later once it opened. "If he shows up, please call," he said. "I'll make it worth your while." Vanessa studied the embossed letters. J. Davenport Industries. She swallowed, realizing this man was no ordinary businessman, but likely a millionaire, maybe more. Money rarely impressed her, but the raw concern in his voice did. She promised to help if she could. Jonathan's phone buzzed, and he left in a hurry, leaving behind a faint aura of tension. Vanessa tucked the card in her apron, mind brimming with questions. That afternoon, just past the lunch rush, Anthony limped in. One eye was bruised, and dried blood stained his collar. Vanessa gasped, rushing to his side. He winced when she touched his arm. "Please, water," he croaked. She guided him into a corner booth. Concern flared in her chest, overshadowing all else. "Should I call an ambulance?" she asked. Anthony shook his head fiercely, panic in his eyes. "No police, no hospital," he pleaded. Vanessa felt torn, but complied, fetching water. He sipped shakily, then whispered, "Jonathan was right. Clive Winston's men found me." His voice trembled with genuine terror. In that moment, Vanessa recalled Jonathan's business card. She hesitated, heart pounding. Anthony leaned forward, desperation evident. "Don't tell him," he rasped, eyes wild. "I betrayed him first." Confusion churned heavily within Vanessa. She asked quietly, "What did you do?" Tears welled in Anthony's eyes. "I leaked confidential data to Winston for a cut. Jonathan, he's my closest friend, and I sold him out." He bowed his head in shame. "Now Winston's turned on me." Vanessa's mind reeled. Should she protect Anthony's secret or warn Jonathan? The battered man before her looked broken, yet she knew Jonathan deserved the truth. She stepped away momentarily to think, hands trembling. Her instincts screamed to call Jonathan. Anthony's betrayal ran deep, but he was still human, battered and frightened. She gathered a first aid kit from the kitchen, gently cleaning his wounds. "I'm sorry," Anthony whispered, tears mixing with dried blood. "I never wanted to hurt him." Compassion swelled in Vanessa's chest. "But you did," she answered softly. "And now he's in danger." Anthony nodded miserably. Torn between loyalty and guilt, he asked, "What will you do?" Vanessa hesitated, Then resolved, Jonathan had a right to know. She discreetly retrieved her phone and dialed. Jonathan's voice crackled through the line. "Davenport here," he answered briskly. Vanessa's heart pounded. In a low tone, she revealed Anthony's presence, injuries, and the truth about leaked data. There was a moment of stunned silence before Jonathan spoke, voice tight with fury and concern. "Is he safe right now?" She nodded, forgetting he couldn't see her. "Yes, we're at the diner." Jonathan promised to send someone immediately and warned her to stay alert. After hanging up, Vanessa returned to Anthony, who gazed at her with deeply betrayed eyes. "You called him," he whispered. She nodded, feeling conflicted yet resolute. Minutes later, an imposing security team arrived. Suited men, earpieces in place, escorted Anthony out the back door and into an unmarked vehicle. Vanessa watched, stunned by the sudden efficiency. Jonathan arrived soon after, face grim. He thanked Vanessa curtly, sliding a wad of cash across the counter for the trouble. She refused at first, insisting she didn't do it for money, but Jonathan insisted. "You helped protect my business, my reputation, and possibly my life. This is the least I can do." His sincerity shone through. Vanessa accepted the money, still teased by how drastically her day had changed. Over the next week, Vanessa barely heard anything more. Anthony never returned, and Jonathan's presence seemed to vanish. She stored the money in a safe place, unsure what to do with it. Doubts gnawed at her. Had she done the right thing? Perhaps Anthony deserved a chance to explain himself or seek redemption. Then again, Jonathan had been under threat. Late one evening, as she collapsed into bed, she wondered if their story had ended. That night, she dreamed of black sedans, ominous men, and two friends torn apart by betrayal. She woke unsettled, longing for deep closure she lacked. The next day, however, events took a surprising turn. Just before her shift ended, the diner's phone rang. Mr. Davenport's assistant asked Vanessa to come to an address uptown after work for a brief meeting. Nervous curiosity bubbled in her. She'd never ventured into the city's affluent district, and the prospect of stepping into Jonathan Davenport's world both thrilled and intimidated her. After her shift, she changed into her nicest blouse, borrowed from a friend, and truly took 2 buses across town. Arriving at a towering glass skyscraper, she stared at the glittering lobby, bracing herself for whatever awaited inside. She announced herself at reception, and moments later, a poised assistant escorted her to Jonathan's private office. The space was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic city views, minimalist furniture, and crisp abstract art. Jonathan stood by the glass, phone in hand. He ended the call, offering a measured smile. "Thank you for coming," he said. Motioning to a chair, he waited for her to sit. Vanessa's nerves tingled. Why had he summoned her? Jonathan's expression softened, revealing weary lines around his eyes. "First, let me thank you again. You likely saved my company. Second, we need to discuss Anthony's situation." Vanessa swallowed hard. Memories of Anthony's bruised face and fearful eyes flashed in her mind. Jonathan explained that Anthony was recuperating at a secure location. Davenport Industries had a separate division investigating Winston's network. "Anthony confessed everything," Jonathan said, voice tinged with sadness. "He was desperate. Winston dangled big money, and Anthony took the bait. Yet, he tried to warn me at the last second." Jonathan's gaze lowered. "I still care about him, despite the betrayal." Vanessa nodded, sensing the pain behind his calm exterior. "Is he safe now?" she asked. Jonathan nodded slowly. "Yes, but his life is uprooted." Jonathan then shifted the conversation's focus. He praised Vanessa's bravery in alerting him. "My team discovered how deeply Winston planned to sabotage my operations. Without your call, I might have been blindsided." Vanessa felt a flutter of pride. Though she reminded him she was simply being honest, Jonathan continued, "I've also learned you're struggling financially. Your manager mentioned you work double shifts often." Vanessa blushed, embarrassed by the attention. "I truly manage," she murmured. Jonathan gave a faint smile. "But you deserve more. I appreciate directness and loyalty. Perhaps you'd accept a position at Davenport Industries, something that rewards your integrity." Stunned, Vanessa asked for clarification. Jonathan explained he ran various philanthropic programs, including a foundation supporting underprivileged youth and job training for those in difficult circumstances. "I want someone dependable to help coordinate these projects," he said. "I need honesty, empathy, and strong work ethic, traits you clearly possess." Overwhelmed, Vanessa's pulse raced. She'd never considered leaving the diner, but this opportunity felt extraordinary. Jonathan assured her it came with competitive pay and benefits. Taking a moment, Vanessa thought of her rent, her overdue bills, and her mother's medical costs. Anxiety warred with hope, but at last she dared to accept. The next morning, Vanessa prepared for her first day. She left the diner job on good terms, hugging coworkers who wished her luck. Arriving at Davenport Tower in modest attire, she felt dwarfed by the corporate environment. Jonathan's assistant greeted her warmly, guiding her through the orientation. By noon, she was immersed in her new responsibilities, reviewing grant applications, coordinating outreach, and scheduling volunteer events. Each task felt purposeful, a stark contrast to the repetitive diner routine. Though nervous, she relished the challenge. Later that evening, as she departed, she realized she'd nearly forgotten about Winston, Anthony, and the earlier drama. That night, however, her memories returned in full force when she arrived home. Parked outside her small apartment building was a silver Bentley, gleaming under the streetlights. Her landlord hovered near it. "Eyes wide. Someone dropped this off for you?" he announced incredulously. Vanessa gaped. A uniformed driver approached with a courteous bow, handing her keys and a letter. Inside, she found Jonathan's handwritten note. "I cannot express my gratitude enough. Anthony is safe, and we have you to thank. This car is a token of appreciation. Use it, sell it. Do whatever helps you most deeply. Warm regards, Jonathan Davenport." Astonishment flooded her. She'd never sat in a luxury car, let alone owned one. Thoughts churned. Was this too extravagant? Should she refuse? Yet Jonathan's note was clear. He wanted to ease her burdens. She imagined the medical bills piling up for her mother, the precarious rent situation. Selling the Bentley could cover pressing expenses. Tentatively, she ran her hand over the flawless hood, heart pounding. Though a part of her felt undeserving, she recognized this gift as a symbol of trust and gratitude. Her landlord whistled softly. "You've struck gold, kid." Indeed, her life had been truly transformed. News spread quickly through her neighborhood. Some neighbors eyed her with envy, others with awe. Vanessa considered quietly trading the Bentley for a modest car and pocketing the difference. Yet she hesitated, uncertain how Jonathan would react if she sold it right away. In the end, she decided to keep it for now, using it carefully. She also used part of her windfall from Jonathan's earlier cash gift to pay down her mother's hospital bills. A weight lifted from her shoulders. Day by day, she settled into her new role, discovering newfound confidence and success as she coordinated philanthropic initiatives. One afternoon, she was finalizing a partnership with a local children's shelter when Jonathan unexpectedly joined her. He'd been away handling the Winston issue, she later learned. Together, they toured the shelter, meeting staff and kids. Vanessa felt tears prick her eyes as she witnessed children who had so little yet beamed with hope. Jonathan spoke gently with them, promising new resources. On their drive back, in the Bentley she'd driven, he commended her passion. "You have a gift," he said, glancing at her with respect. "You connect with people in a way most corporate executives never do." She blushed. In subsequent weeks, their professional relationship deepened. Vanessa excelled at her projects, and Jonathan increasingly sought her input on philanthropic decisions. With Winston's threat neutralized, thanks to the authorities arresting key associates, Anthony began a rehabilitation process. Vanessa heard through Jonathan that Anthony was focusing on therapy, working to repay stolen funds, and rebuilding trust. Although reconciliation was far off, progress brought Jonathan some relief. Meanwhile, the Bentley symbolized the extraordinary turn in Vanessa's life, a daily reminder that compassion could spark profound change. She discovered a renewed sense of purpose, grateful she'd answered a moral calling that day in the diner. Eventually, Anthony reached out to Vanessa himself, sending a humble email. He expressed remorse, thanking her for saving his life and inadvertently allowing him a path toward redemption. Vanessa replied, encouraging him to keep going, acknowledging that everyone made mistakes. A few days later, she mentioned the message to Jonathan. He nodded, relief brightening his usually stern features. "I'd almost given up on him," he admitted. "Maybe we can mend things eventually." Vanessa smiled, realizing how deeply Jonathan cared. The entire ordeal had tested friendships, trust, and moral resolve. In the end, honesty and compassion had ultimately triumphed over deception. Months passed, and Vanessa thrived in her new position. She balanced budgets for charitable programs, delivered supplies to shelters, and supervised community events. Her previously meager savings now grew steadily, allowing her to move her mother into a better clinic. Occasionally, she still pinched herself to ensure this wasn't a dream. The Bentley remained a symbol of unexpected fortune, but more importantly, a reminder of the power of doing the right thing. Jonathan, ever grateful, treated her as a confidant and valued partner. Though the two maintained a professional rapport, a genuine friendship blossomed, founded on mutual respect and compassion. One sunny afternoon, after wrapping up a successful charity drive, Vanessa found Jonathan waiting by her desk. He carried a small box. Inside, carefully nestled among satin folds, lay a sleek phone and a handwritten card. "You shouldn't rely on old devices," Jonathan teased gently. "We want you reachable at all times now." She laughed, touched by the thoughtful gesture. The card read, "To the friend who reminded me that humanity matters more than profits." The swirl of gratitude truly overwhelmed her. In one short year, she'd gone from a struggling waitress to a linchpin in Jonathan Davenport's philanthropic empire. Looking back, Vanessa realized how a single choice had sparked this astonishing journey. She could have turned away, ignoring Anthony's plight. She could have refused to call Jonathan, fearing involvement in affairs beyond her station. Instead, she listened to her conscience, alerting the millionaire about his friend's predicament. That act propelled her from a modest diner to a life infused with purpose, enabling her to help countless others. The Bentley parked outside her home reminded her daily, compassion could transform destinies. Indeed, in a world so often ruled by greed, one waitress's courage proved that kindness still had incredible power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more exciting content. And be sure to share this video with your friends. Every bit of support helps us bring you more incredible stories. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.